What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We are back doing another preview video. We haven't done these for a little while. For anyone who hasn't seen the preview videos before, what we do is we chuck on a game of Rugby 20 in the background of the teams that are going to be playing in an upcoming match, just so you guys have something interesting to watch in the background. And then over the top, we talk about the official teams announced to be playing this game for the Autumn Internationals. We go through who we think is going to do well, who we think might do badly, and then finally give a score prediction of what we think will happen in this game. The first game is going to be Tonga versus Scotland. We will of course be playing as the lower rated team as Tonga. So let's get this game kicked off and underway. Alrighty, Morath is going to get us kicked off and underway. We'll start off kicking towards the right hand side. Let's mix it up, go with the wind a little bit. There seems to be no one watching this game live, but of course that won't be happening in real life. There'll be plenty of people watching this game because this is going to be an exciting opener to the Autumn International. Scotland versus Tonga. Tonga of course struggling in quite a few of their recent games to get any wins. Of course we had that massive loss they had against New Zealand earlier in the year, which they'll hopefully be trying to bounce back from. Tonga have struggled for the last year, 18 months especially. I think if you went back 5-6 years, they definitely would have been sort of classed in that tier 2 nation, maybe leaning towards the tier 3. I think given some of their losses recently against teams like Samoa, New Zealand, which we kind of expected, but such a massive loss against New Zealand, and playing some of the other teams, they might be slowly dropping down in those rankings, and they'll be certainly wanting to show off a bit that they still got a bit of fire in them. As for Scotland, of course, we didn't get to see Scotland in the Summer International. So many issues around certain viruses that we're not allowed to talk about for monetary restrictions on YouTube. We won't get into that too much, but we weren't allowed to see a lot of the games going to be happening there, unfortunately for them. So Scotland have missed out on quite a bit of build-up towards this game, because we see a big foul there from Johnny Gray. Hopefully we won't be seeing a lot of that in the actual games. So Scotland coming into this team, unfortunately I wasn't able to catch the official team released for the full squad going on the Autumn Internationals. I did manage to see that just before filming this video, and there was 12 uncapped players named in the team, and that gave Gregor Townsend quite a lot of issues to deal with, because of course they have now got 12 uncapped players. You want to probably be putting on a B team against Tonga, but you certainly want to be coming away with a win. I think if you're a Scotland supporter, you'd be expecting to come away with a win here. So you can't afford to be going too low capped and having too many new players coming in, and you'll want to be showing off. So let's start off talking about this Scotland team, as I've just mentioned. So what we'll do is we'll chuck the team on screen for you guys to check out. So let's check out the front row to start off with. Starting off with Peter Schumann, George Turner and Xander Fagerson. So this is quite a, I would say, a more experienced front row. This is certainly more experienced than I was expecting. They obviously know Tonga are a bunch of big boys. They like their set plays, as we have a terrible kick in the background here. I have a bunch of big boys in the scrum. It's probably one of their few areas where they're going to be able to compete, is going to be in those scrums and those mauls. There's a lot of weight behind the Tongan players. They're going to want to show off a bit. So having experience in there, George Turner and Xander Fagerson, having both played in the Six Nations, and having quite a few caps behind them, they'll have experience in how to deal with that and how to play some of these bigger boys in that front row. So I don't think that's a bad move. It'd be nice to see Pierre Schumann coming in there as well. Don't know a lot about him, so hopefully it'll be an exciting position there in the loose head. Moving on to the locks, some new boys here, Jamie Hodgson and Rob Harley. Not a lot to see, not a lot of the Gray brothers. It feels like for the last 5 years all we've ever seen is the Gray brothers involved in that lock department. So it'd be nice to see some new boys coming in there, hopefully making an impact. Not too sure about the Tongan line out, how it'll be able to cope. I'm sure Scotland have got quite a lot of practice now, a lot of good coaching, a lot of good techniques in that line out situation. They'll be wanting to compete in that area, and that will be an area they're looking to try and dominate. I would probably imagine they'll be going for some of those kicks to corner and getting those line outs and getting those line out wins if they can, along with a couple of steals, no doubt. Joining them finally then in that set of 8, Jamie Ritchie as the co-captain. They've got 2 co-captains for this game, Hamish Watson at 7 and Matt Fagerson at 8. So I would say probably here you would probably argue the most experienced in this front set of 8. Jamie Ritchie and Hamish Watson I spoke about endlessly as we went through the Six Nations and just how good both of them can be. Jamie Ritchie tends to give away a few too many penalties for my liking. One of those very on the edge players, sort of a bit reminiscent of someone like a Toje. Really pushes that 50-50 marker. There are a few too many penalties. I would like to see him stop giving away quite so many, but he certainly does the job well when it comes to tackling and jackling. Mixed with his flanker partnership there of Hamish Watson, who didn't get as much run out in the Lions tour as we would have liked to have seen him. I thought he had a superb Six Nation. I picked him to be in my Lions team. team way back when that was going on. Think he deserved to go. A couple of people didn't think he was going to make it on the team because of how many Scotland players were going, but I think Hamish Watson doing really well, playing really good rugby. And finally, Matt Fagerson, nice to see him in that number 8 shirt again. Plays very nicely, sort of like I've referred to him before as a mini CJ Stander, which probably isn't doing him a lot of justice because he's also quite a big boy, but he likes playing that backfield as a number 8 and hitting it straight up through the centre line. It's a great tactic, and I think especially like it's a team like Tonga, big lads, you're going to want big lads running in yourself, so it might not be quite as much room in that first half for the backs to explode, but for people like Matt Fagerson who will get in there in that first half just to break through a couple of the tackle lines and allow the backs to explode, I think it's quite a good move. Moving on to the backs, the halfback partnership, Ali Price is the co-captain, wealth of experience now, probably the standout number 1 for me in terms of the scrum half in Scotland at the minute, really liking his rugby at the time. Blair Kinghorn coming in at fly half, not someone we get to see play fly half a lot, does know how to play fly half, does play fly half occasionally at club level when he needs to, can play winger, can play fullback, he's probably the most utilisable player in the Scotland team. However, I don't feel like he gets a lot of run-outs. Blair Kinghorn, he normally sort of plays very far at the on the right wing when we sort of see him going, and no one passes him the ball. When he plays fullback, I do quite like him there as well, but of course Stuart Hogg tends to outrun him in that fullback position. So at 10, will be nice to see him play fly half. Hopefully him and Ali Price can link up well. It'll be nice to see them get on as a good partnership. Looking towards the centre partnership, Sam Johnson and Tui Pelotu. So this will be a bit of a new combo for them to be testing out. There was no Hugh Jones in there. We haven't got to see any more of Cameron Redpath. Not sure if he's still out with injury or what have you, but hopefully we'll get to see him a little bit more in the future. We didn't really get to see a lot of him in the Six Nations, which was a shame. But a new centre partnership, Sam Johnson, it's a bit 50-50 for me depending on the game he's playing, but he can explode sometimes and he can do really well. Definitely prefer him on the inside centre channel. I know he does play 13 sometimes, but I definitely prefer him in that 12, and looking forward to see what Tui Pelotu can bring to it. And we'll finish off, just as we're about to sort of get towards half time here, by looking at this back 3, because there's going to be some big switches around here, a lot of inexperience, I guess you could probably call it, rather than there's probably lesser caps here. Rufus McLean taking over in the 11 shirt, Kyle Stain taking over at right wing, and Darcy Graham moving to fullback, which Darcy Graham is playing really good rugby at the minute. I've seen him at club level in the Ultimate Rugby Championship. He's playing really good rugby, and I think he absolutely deserves a spot. He was doing well in the Six Nations, and I think he's managed to carry that through a little bit. Sure, a couple of people will be thinking, why is Duhan van der Merwe not back in this team? I imagine with some of the games they've got coming up, it's worth saving players like him for some later games. Tonga, very much a game they'll be wanting just to target as a win. I don't think Duhan van der Merwe's going to be doing anything super exceptionally over what someone else can bring against Tonga. I imagine this game will be based a lot more around the forwards in that first half, and then the second half, when the gaps begin to open, as we saw in that New Zealand game, as we've seen in some of the other games against Tonga, that's where you begin to explode and find the room. We'll quickly put some subs on in the background while we talk about the subs for the Scotland team. So, a bit of a mixed bench here. Stuart McAnally, Jamie Batty and Ollie Kebble. Really enjoying Ollie Kebble in the Six Nations. I think he's playing really good rugby. He doesn't get as many starts as I would imagine. I don't think he really does a lot of the full 80s. He definitely seems to be, I would say, more choice for the sort of from the 50-minute onwards. They put him on for that final half hour. Big impact player, weighs an awful lot. I wouldn't want to tackle him myself, but I think it'll be a good move. There's a good replacement 3 there. Hopefully it can hold up. I think it's sort of like a mid-range experienced team probably going in there, and I think they'll be able to hold out in those scrums, especially when Tonga are making a lot of those changes as well. Moving further backwards, Marshall Sykes and Luke Crosby, not two players I know a lot from, so I'll be looking out for them specifically just to see how they get on in this game. Nick Haining, a name becoming slowly a bit more sort of known in the Scotland team now, definitely making a few more appearances for that Scotland team. He'll be lucky to hopefully get a few good games in this autumn tour, especially with having missed out on the summer series. And then finally moving more towards the back, Jamie Dobby and Ross Thompson. So it's a bit of a mix. We expected there to probably be more of a B team than an A team going in for this Tonga game, but obviously you can't afford to just weaken your team down too much, otherwise you could find yourself losing a game to Tonga, which I'm sure Scotland probably won't be too happy with. I'm sure supporters supporters wouldn't be too happy losing to Tonga. No disrespect to any Tongan supporters that we have watching this video. But I think Scotland are going in there with a relatively good mix of experience and inexperience. The cap leadership there, they've definitely got two of the higher cap players in Jamie Ritchie and Ali Price taking over the captaincy, which I think is a good move, to be honest. Leadership definitely needs to be coming from those higher cap players to have as much impact as possible and keep everyone in check as they're going, as long as Jamie Ritchie doesn't get himself sent off. But Ali Price, you know, had a good Six Nations, especially going out with the Lions as well. He'll have a real confidence boost going into that. I think it's a relatively good mix, though, of caps and lesser caps. Get those players out there. We've got to remember, of course, that some of these players, some of them will have gone off with the Lions, but some of them will have missed all of those summer games, and it will only be now club level. The experience they've got on the pitch will have been since the Six Nations they got to play any international rugby. Tonga, of course, have played more international games in recent history, having played the likes of, like I said, New Zealand stuff. They're not coming away with the wins that we would have wanted to, but they're still getting the experience on the pitch and the time on the field, which can become a big thing. So I think it's worth getting those players in there. George Turner was playing good rugby. Xander Fagerson, we want to see more of, having his red card in the Six Nations. Missed out on a lot of games. Get Jamie Ritchie, get Hamish Watson, get Sam Johnson, get these players out on the field, get some time on the pitch, get them back used to playing that speed of international rugby. Allows you to get them warmed up then for some of the bigger games coming ahead and get them in check. Which, of course, now we've finished talking about the Scotland team, we need to move on to talk about Tonga. So, Tonga have, let's say, not had the best year by all means. They, of course, lost in that massive game against New Zealand, losing by over 100 points, which is not something any international side wants to do. They've also lost games against Samoa, and their team is looking a little bit low on the ground at the minute. So, coming into this game, they've certainly got a lot to work on to try and get back into that top level of rugby that they've played before. They, of course, have beaten Scotland before. They beat them about 9 years ago, I believe now. They did actually beat the Scotland team, and the Scotland team are missing quite a few players. Now, unfortunately, for a lot of these sort of teams where I talk about them, Tonga will be one of the few that I won't be able to get super in-depth with, especially this time because, of course, this game is outside of the international window. So what I'll do for you guys, you can see it on screen now, is the team that Tonga have put out. And I'm not really going to be able to talk a lot about these guys, because in all honesty, there is like 6 new starting players just in this starting 15 alone. There's others going on there. It's not the best graphic. This is what Tonga have actually managed to put out as a graphic. I can't find anything else anywhere for you guys to sort of look through, so sorry, it looks a bit spreadsheety. But we can have a quick run through some of the players we know. In all honesty, for me, the two standouts here are Faifita and, of course, in the scrum half, Takalua, who has been the captain for what feels like forever in that Tongan team. He's got to be one of the staples of that Tongan team, but they're certainly going to have to work hard in order to try and get a resounding victory here. They have got a lot of players missing due to the international window being missed, and I would say Scotland are probably looking more likely to go through. In terms of the replacements, I haven't really got a lot of people I can call out here. There's a Havili and a Falefa, but unfortunately I won't know a little bit too much about them, so sorry for that one, guys. This one's not going to be the most informative on Tonga. Anyone who knows a little bit more about Tonga rugby than me, feel free to drop down in the comments who should we be keeping an eye out for in this game. But moving on to a score prediction now. Scotland at home at Murrayfield with, you know, not necessarily like the mainstream B team, but certainly not their top tier team with so many players missing as well from them. So I would still believe it was going to be a resounding Scotland win. I think everyone would be a little bit surprised if they didn't manage to come away with a win. So for me personally, I'm going to call Scotland to win by, I'm going to say 25 is going to be my call, but of course that's just one man's opinion, so make sure you drop down in the comments who you think's going to win, how much you think they're going to win by, who do you think's going to do well, who do you think's going to do badly. Do you think Tonga are going to come out of nowhere and just smash out a massive victory that no one saw coming with so many new players entering? Of course, we will be doing one of these videos for the Wales versus New Zealand game. That's one that I'm going to be really looking forward to this weekend. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with all of these preview videos as you come out, and if you've enjoyed this one today, make sure to drop it a like because it does really help out the channel. I personally am just looking forward to watching some rugby back on the screens and getting able to see some live rugby, and for anyone who hasn't already joined up, make sure you get yourself onto Super Brew and join in with the fantasy predictor we've got on the go. There's a whole video about how to do that, so you guys can check that out and join in too. But I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys, and are going to look forward to some rugby in the near future. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye bye.